All right, everybody, welcome to the Scho-Zone. It's your host, Ryan Schofield, coming at you live from my studio, apartments, whatever the fucking hell you want to call it. Anyways, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for following. Give me a like, give me a subscribe, get that shit out of the way. Thank you for all that are new to the Scho-Zone. And I've never been more interested myself as to what's going to happen in an episode. This is certainly a strange day, the first Monday after a very eventful weekend in the world, I guess we can call it, or at least in America. I want to be careful what I discuss about that. I always try to be diplomatic when handling very controversial topics, we shall say. I find it a little strange that I don't know. After my last episode I posted a couple of videos this week on my YouTube page that did not get any views at all this weekend. But then as soon as this today started, all of a sudden people started watching them. I found that to be strange. So I don't know if maybe me and Jason said something that we should not have said on this. Nobody notified me or anything, but going to try and keep this fairly neutral and just kind of not necessarily discuss what happened, but just kind of discuss things, I guess we should say, that might be going on in the world, for starters, I guess the fact that I don't feel comfortable discussing what happened this weekend freely, or that, everything's become so polarizing and divisive that like I was at work and I was like, can I like talk about this openly? Or is that like, we really can't talk about certain things anymore? Not that politics and religion should always have been kind of, a little bit, but like we could at least have some discussion of that one. Like somebody can say that they go to church. We don't, say, okay, oh my God, like what it could be, but like you really don't even want to say your political affiliations out loud anymore. So that's a little bit much. It also seems that I don't know. It's not like this hasn't been trending in this direction. There's actually an old clip of somebody that's pretty popular that used to be on a little bit more of a mainstream platform that kind of said that, like, look at everything that has gone on. Is that how is it's not trending towards this? And I don't even think that, they feel wrong in saying that we've become pretty inviting, or a little bit, we don't mind necessarily the idea of peaceful protests. When you see some of the videos that you may have seen of a peaceful protest, and my definitions are a little different. I don't know. That's actually been a big thing of mine. I'm not sure if I understand the correct definitions of things. I just will kind of say that without saying as much as that, I'm thinking that maybe the next person to hold a very prominent role in the nation that I reside, it's probably, I don't think it's going to be anybody that we currently think it is. I don't think it's going to be either of the two men that maybe took to the stage a little while ago. Everyone's had a really interesting run of it since that event. And, that was the resounding theme leaving that event, was that this is the best we can do. And just based on how everything has gone since then, I'm, as a gambler, I would, maybe you gave me 10-1 odds. I just don't know who that person would be. If you gave me a field bet, a 10-1 odds would get me to, throw down some action. Anyways, let's get this back on track. Scho-Zone, we come in for sports, not for the other bullshit. Speaking of 10-1 odds, I think I can actually get a little better on that one. We're getting into the All-Star break in baseball. I would say right now, the St. Louis Cardinals, they just proved more of what I thought this weekend by splitting a series against the Cubs, swept the doubleheader, but lost the cornerstone games of that series. I just don't think that they're a great team. I mean, granted, the Brewers, got stuck in the mud a little bit, but ultimately, until that run differential is consistently going in the right direction, I just can't see it happening. Now, this has been a good thing for me, of that based on the previous bullshit I discussed, and just the fact of that the St. Louis Cardinals, I have haven't deleted the account. As you can see in the corner here, my Twitter handle is still out there. I also use that for Instagram. That it's Twitter or X. I don't have that app on my phone anymore. I still do have the ability to access it through Safari. So I kind of look at that as if somebody sends me a link, I will still be able to look at it, but I don't actively go onto there. And it's been so great. It's only been 3 days. Since Friday, and today is Monday. It's been a tremendous relief in my world, is that I have not gotten hung up on bullshit. And I'm sure that's even part of, maybe I'll even start enjoying the Cardinals because I don't have to worry about what I might tweet about the Cardinals. Realistically, having a Twitter account, it's kind of like I think of the Creed thoughts from The Office, where it felt good for me to be able to put things out there just because, okay, someone might see this and react to it, but ultimately nobody really does. It's stupid that it makes me feel better. I mean, I guess internalizing things is not the greatest, but this is what I have this podcast for. I can just say it out here, and at least I get to. Sometimes I see myself say these things and I go, wow, you look like a fucking idiot. You probably shouldn't say that anymore. This is more productive to me than me leaving it out there and then fighting with strangers because they disagree with me when they're probably half my age and half my intellect, or twice my age and twice my intellect, and I just don't know any better. I probably have a more favorable view of myself than I should, but we'll continue to toe the line of cocky and confident as long as we're living in this world, as far as I'm concerned. That's been a real big good thing for me. And, again, really is limited of, again, I got some information out of that, which that was a little bit more back to that bullshit, I guess we'll say, is that when that happened, it didn't seem like that they're on other platforms. I got an abundance of information on that. That just seems a little bit strange to me that it was not a bigger ordeal. But again, we'll move off of that. I look at it though, is that getting off of there is that what happens is that we've just altered the perception of reality. Is that in the real world, and I remember 4 years ago, which is a very important thing I want to bring up. 4 years ago, what was going on in this world? I actually remember I got rid of Facebook 4 years ago because it started turning into the whole thing of that the internet, while it is great for business, and unfortunately that seems to be the way that this world works, is that what is good for business and not good for people, we just kind of side with business over people. It's good to connect businesses and places together, but it's not maybe the best thing in the world there's a reason why people live in New York and people live in the South, and there's people think differently than there, but should be good that I don't have as much access to what they think. It's just maybe I know not to go down there after I visit, but I'm seeing things ordinarily I would not see, and none of them really, you get the occasional video. It is nice every now and again when someone posts a video of that, hey, here's a dog doing something cute. Brighten up your fucking day. Not a video of somebody fighting or somebody getting shot or somebody getting their head fucking ripped off or, a pedophile being a fucking, it's nice to know that there's people out there that are fucking actually fighting, beating up fucking pedophiles. They're not doing it for the right reasons, though. I think they're doing it for the clicks and likes, which, again, I'm no better than them. I'm doing this fucking show for the same reason, but I'm gaining something out of it. I'm not harming anybody in doing this. And again, maybe pedophiles being harmed, but that's the weird line we draw. I mean, fuck, I don't want to bring too much to the whole thing, but there is the idea of that. Now, again, it's just, I would say it's based off of dangerous rhetoric, and I will get as very neutral as I can be and not get into specifics. But when people are constantly fed enough negative images of something, and we have kind of said that it is okay to react negatively to negativity, I guess we're almost tolerating that, although it is strange that we're trying to get rid of toxic masculinity, but punching a Nazi is okay. That's just how I've said too much. We'll just go back to the Scho-Zone that I'd originally planned. And getting rid of that bad thing is that, again, I'm starting to realize is that the key to life here is I'm getting to that in the age, and next year is my 40th birthday. And like I said, the base of the show is that it's my midlife crisis just come to fruition. I think that, it's okay to have unhealthy behaviors. It's just not okay to be unhealthy, I guess I could say. That's going to trend into a lot of things. So 4 years ago, I would say that was probably, started and really altered the man that you see in front of you today. I should now mention that sometime over the weekend, I'm one of these really weird guys that I celebrated my 2 years of being booze free. Now, congratulations to me. I appreciate the thanks on that one. I don't like knowing exactly the day, because the fact of the matter is that day was just as impressive as the day before and the day that's, leading up to it, or the day after it. So I don't like to give too much arbitrary meaning to that, but I would say that probably my behavior, I probably was just towing that line for a very long time of problem drinker, heavy drinker to reckless alcoholic. It started really kind of manifesting into that during COVID. And there's a million different reasons to go that it was just all just bound to happen. But 2 years without the booze, and it's, again, I will say that I'm very, very careful on this one of that. Obviously, sometimes there was people that told me along the way that maybe I should consider not doing that anymore. And I was abrasive towards that for a very long time. And everyone has to do it on their own terms. I don't like to necessarily to call people out. It's up for people to decide on that one. I will be quick though to point out to people that if I think that, like I can hang out with some people when they drink. I use that very, very carefully. There are some people that I will say that their consumption or how they are when they consume alcohol, I find it difficult to be around. And I just leave it at that. Now, their life is not centered around whether it's easy to be drunk around Ryan Schofield. I would say that, if I'm probably not the only person that's saying that. Like, honestly, I like watching somebody that knows how to have a fucking good time. Like Jason was on the show recently and he was talking about how if you go into a bar in Milwaukee at noon, there's probably people that are drinking, and playing games and doing shots. Yeah, there are people that, like, don't get me wrong, the reason I had to stop is because I had fun with it. There are people that can do it right. And sure, that I think that towards the end is where it really started getting, as I started feeling like I was getting sloppy. The way I started looking at it was like almost in Wedding Crashers, where at the beginning of the movie, they show all the fun that they're having crashing all these weddings. And then when it starts just being Owen Wilson by himself, and that's kind of how my life played out as I'm getting older, is that, he starts looking kind of sad and pathetic doing those wedding crashing. That started kind of happening with me. Having that fun, it stopped happening as much. And I would say the best part about it is that, again, I have no regrets about anything that I did. I can say that I left it all out on the field, and I have stories to last for days. I mean, I have content that I could probably be posting that I'm just not sure if I want to, because I'm not sure if I should be proud of it. But, there was a period of time where I was appreciated at bars, I would say, I like to think, or at least, most bartenders made me feel pretty welcome. I mean, and regular patrons, I mean, there is people that are going a little too far that can make you uncomfortable or become emotional. That's always the whole thing. Where I'm going with this one would be kind of, I mean, again, I'm really all over the place. That's just kind of how I do things. We've covered the incident that we won't mention by name here. I've kind of covered my thoughts that, backing up to the Cardinals a little bit, and I'm trending into this whole 4 year ago thing. And it's going to tie together a little of that, I like the idea, or no, I don't like this idea at all, actually, but I went grocery shopping just recently. I posted a short, and I'll probably link to this. I went on this a little bit of my war on Chipotle. I just went and I just showed that $70 worth of groceries for me. I've got all kinds of fruits. I've got all kinds of meats. I've got, things to make with, you have your like regular staple type things that, those will, your seasonings and, accessories, I guess I'll call them, like butter and fucking, I'm very, very low on condiments. Most of them are not good for you, or just, they just taste like fucking shit at this point to me. Once I've kind of cleaned up my diet, now when I eat the bad shit, it does just taste bad to me. It's a good thing of doing. I recommend that everyone does a 3-day fast and kind of cut back to it, but try eating things fresher, as I go on of that. I love the picture that I'll see online of someone posting $150 worth of groceries, and most of it's stuff that sits on a shelf that is just full of additives and, just is not fresh, or it's just, bullshit. And I would say because of that, is that, you just feel that much better. And, I look at that. I spent that much money on food, and I'm going to eat very, very well. I mean, I exercise a lot. I eat a lot of protein. So, I mean, like that's, going to fuel me through all of that type of stuff. And it's not money that I'm wasting that I don't like, convenience. I get people do pay for, but what do you want to pay for? To not have to cook your own food, or do you want to be able to do the things that I do, which is kind of like the highlight coming up here, as you see scrolling the bottom line. I'm going to all those baseball games. I'm not saying I've saved enough money by not, eating the way that I do and living the way that I live to do that, but it certainly has helped me out an awful lot. And I feel a lot better, and people tell me I look better. And it's just like, I'm going to a fucking thing in 2 days to my job. I have, I still have bad habits. So what I'm saying is that, it's okay to have some bad habits. Like, again, like you can have a couple shit items that go into your food cart on there. Just have it just be a few. not the entire thing. But what happens is with a lot of that stuff, they're kind of like drugs. You kind of almost like, I remember Louis C.K., oh God, you can't bring that guy up, but he always had a bit when his like first big stand-up where he became popular. He talked about how people get so big at some point in time that they just stop caring. Like, fuck it now, man. Who cares? I get that. I've been there. And like, I'm probably going to have some revisiting of that when I go to Rochester, which is part of my little trip that's coming up when I have a garbage plate, because I used to eat those all the fucking time. And guess what? I used to really not look that good or feel that good all the time. So, but having one every now and again is probably not the worst thing in the world. Now, it's also going to be better that it's not going to be a 3 o'clock in the morning drunk thing. It's, you can't combine bad habits, I would also say too. But where I'm going is I have been off of nicotine for 10 days. It's been a rough 10 days. I've been having, if you've seen me vaping on any of the past few shows, that's been a no nicotine vape. It is not the active vaping that really gets going. I'm sucking like on that thing, still waiting to get a hit of nicotine, and it just does not happen. But I rewarded myself. I stocked up. I've already got my Zyn ready to go. I have a metabolic screening at work where just for being healthy, imagine this one. People complain about the cost of their health insurance. Just for being healthy, they're going to cut my health insurance in half. Do you know what I can do with that one? I can then now contribute that to my 401k. And then now that's extra money that was still, my paycheck's still the same, but future Ryan's going to thank me for that in a multitude of ways, because he's not going to have as much bullshit medical expenses to pay for. And he's also going to have a couple extra dollars to fucking finance whatever lifestyle he might have the chance of having, which who knows? Another point to rant onto this, where again, I hate going here, but when I went shopping, if you see the video I posted, you're going to notice that there's a second thing of rice. I do like to have a carb with my dinner. It's okay to have carbs. They're not evil if you're active. If they're good energy if you use them, if you eat the clean ones, not sugar. That's a big difference. I bought 2 boxes of those, and I kind of am going to start, so I bet the $70 there, but I'm going to start kind of budgeting a little bit extra for things that can stay good on my shelves that are not necessarily so bad for you. It's just not the worst idea, because, hey, it's always nice to have extra of something that may not go bad. But I don't know if people realize how close, if certain things had gone certain ways this weekend, we may have been to like things kind of shutting down. We'll just say certain people that maybe like a certain affiliation, maybe hold a lot of jobs, may have been very, very upset. And they're people that kind of facilitate how this world runs a little bit. That could have, it's just a potential. It's been brought up before. So, maybe just having those little extras, because again, like right now too, if something is on a low sale and it's something that can, stay good, it's a nice little savings, like pasta, rice, cheeses, meats, if you can freeze them, they're not the worst thing to have, because eventually you will need them anyways. It's not like, it's not like betting a future, or buying a stock where it can just, you get nothing out of it, which I know a lot about doing. I will say that we'll try to that into a little bit, but so that's something I think is on my mind, and I think that would not be the worst idea, because that does sound crazy, but I do remember back to the point I was bringing up about 4 years ago, when this whole thing started, where you see the man in front of you today. Let's just say that was the first time I ever ate bratwurst. Now, what motivated me to try bratwurst 4 years ago? When I went to the grocery store, it was the only meat that was left. Okay. When things get a little weird, people panic. That's a big thing. I'm a huge George Carlin fan, and I've been posting a lot of his clips recently, because I think that rather than listening to politicians, we should listen to comedians talk about politicians, especially the really good ones. And I think that George Carlin was the smartest man alive. I don't think it's the worst thing to be a little bit out ahead of there. And I probably lost my point. Get that a little bit. I was big on the Kava stock. I posted that on there. I sold some of that, or actually, at least I think a good way of using that money. Again, the Cardinals, they got a little bit closer to the Brewers this weekend. I still just do not see it with the Cardinals. They are just too inconsistent, too unreliable in too many phases, and things just really seem to have to go right. I mean, they won some games this weekend hitting the home runs, but I can't rely on them to hit enough home runs. Again, Arenado is hitting the ball, but it is not for extra bases. It just seems the power's been struck out of his bat. And again, Goldie, like, they'll still hit some here and there, but it's less frequent than we would like it to be with St. Louis. There are a couple teams I am eyeing in the second half of the baseball, and I do believe that I am just going to for about the first 20 games. And in fact, one of the games I will be at next Monday, a week from now, I'll actually be watching them. I think the Tampa Bay Rays have a chance to come out of the second half pretty hot. There's certain players on that, the Rosarina, Randy Diaz, and Josh Lowe, who are three pretty integral guys to their success of last season, who are starting to perform on a more regular basis. And a lot of times with baseball players, career numbers slowly start making their way to there. I had a really good joke I fucking just missed a while ago too, but I'll get back to that at some point. But they're slowly starting to trend towards their career numbers, where like Randy Rosarina, he's not the greatest player in the world, but he's not exactly a 200 hitter. He's kind of kind of finishes around in that 240, 250 range, and he has a decent OPS, and he's a 20 homer, 20 steal guy pretty much year after year. For him to get to those numbers, for Josh Lowe, if he was to get to those numbers, he gets there. If you just look at the baseline of stats that they produced from last season, there are some differences. Again, there's some things you got to factor out. They did have Wander Franco for part of the season last year. They did have Shane McClanahan last year, who was a Cy Young type candidate for most of the season. But the Rays are an organization that's, I just always say in baseball, if you make a trade with the Tampa Bay Rays, if your team makes a trade with the Rays, assume that they fucking just got fleeced. Where I'm going with this is that they just kind of crept to 500. I took them every game this weekend against the Guardians. I like the idea of them, and again, I think I've said before that the All-Star break can be very detrimental and scary as far as teams that slump into the break sometimes come out of it and vice versa. But I think I'm going to be taking the Rays, just like setting amount aside and just doing a unit, like a $50 bet or something like that for the next 20 games. So if they go 0-20, I lose $1,000. That'll fucking suck. That one's on me. Now, does anyone? I'll bet you that they don't. That's where I'm going to go with that one. I saw a market, and I don't. They're 5.5 games out of the playoffs. They got a couple teams ahead of them, and I saw on Baseball Reference they were given a 1.3% chance of making the playoffs. I don't know. Like, there's just certain logos or just certain, like, again, I'm always big on look at numbers, not at teams, but certain things about the Rays is that where I'm going is that I saw on DraftKings they're plus 750 to make the playoffs. I don't think that's a terrible bet. And the way I might be looking at this one is that another team who I think is doing very well right now is the Boston Red Sox. They were a team I liked prior to the year, and I just got a little gun shy about it because I think that there's something to the seasonal depression of living in New York, that by the time we get around the baseball season, it's like, towards the end of the winter of a couple of months of misery around here, and I'm ready to crack. And I think that maybe I get a little unsure about myself, but I've been pretty spot on with how I've eyed out this division now. It's funny I say that the Rays as a second half candidate, because I was definitely down on the Rays before the season started, but seeing them turn it, how they've gotten to where they've gotten, I do see some room for improvement for them. But the Red Sox were a team that I'm like, they're not as bad as everyone thinks. They're like, just because they don't have sexy names does not mean that they don't have sexy results. And Rafael Devers is a guy that these are what I would look for with second halves, is that are there guys that can get crazy hot and carry you for stretches? And I just mentioned a couple on the Rays, and Rafael Devers, I mean, I'm still blown away. I mean, I just saw as the shorts, the clip of him hitting a ball that was up and away fast. That was a Vlad Guerrero home run from the left side is the best way to describe that. That ball that hit the Yankee Stadium to right center. If someone's going to, it wasn't completely pulled. It was hit to the fucking opposite, the other side of center field from where it was pitched to at the velocity it was. That was impressive. I really, really love that Devers guy. Saw him in person. He hit 2 home runs. The only other person I can say I think about that is I've seen that about Chipper Jones, and I've said that about Albert Pujols. Chipper Jones won an MVP, is already in the Hall of Fame. Albert Pujols won an MVP, first ballot Hall of Famer. Rafael Devers, maybe there's an MVP in his future. Maybe the Hall of Fame is in his future. Maybe I should just actually bet a Devers MVP every year for the rest of his career. Maybe that's not a bad idea. Maybe I just came up with one there for you. Maybe we'll put that on the bottom line at some point for you to remind you for future episodes if you've made it this far. But I think that one of those two teams, now the Red Sox were even money. So you can put say you put $100 on the Red Sox and you put like 25 on the Rays. One of those two teams makes it there. You made a couple bucks. It's not big money, but I think that the way that things are bearing out in the American League, one of those two teams is going to make it there. The Mariners, I mean, they tipped their hand last year when they had their little struggles in the playoffs. Again, they do have the great pitching. Julio Rodriguez, if he gets hot like he did at some point last year, I mean, that was a weird thing. I remember turning down Julio Rodriguez in a fantasy baseball trade for Pete Alonso last year and feeling like a fucking genius for a while about it. And then he had that August that he had where it was like, okay, I think he set the record for, he had like something like 17 hits in 4 games or something stupid like that. But he is, him and Cal Rowell, I mean, there's some solid players on the Mariners. But where I'm going is that their organization has been up front in saying that they're really just trying to win a certain percentage of games. And that's the old Moneyball thing, is that shit works over 162 games. And really just in baseball, it's always the toughest it's a weird tournament baseball because you play 162 games to get there and then random chance decides it, is because that's, just how the game is constructed. But I do believe the Astros going forward are there. The Rangers have all of the resources to make it happen, but I just don't feel it with them this year. And that's just a weird thing. I hate being a vibes guy on something like that for gambling, but I don't see it. The Royals, I really loved going into the year, and they started off. I think they're going to fade out. I just don't. The pitching's not exactly there, and they're just, the depth was a little bit of, they signed some people, but I just don't see them accumulating the depth that they're going to need to make this one last long enough. The Twins, again, if Royce Lewis can come back, I'm going to Minneapolis. I'm looking forward to seeing them there. I might even buy, you're going to see some footage of me when I go to see Baltimore of the ridiculous Gunnar Henderson Suns Out, Guns Out tank top that I bought. Me wearing a Suns Out, Guns Out tank top, a ginger with no biceps I'm hoping that I get some attention. We'll just say that's, I don't want to bring it upon myself. I don't want to do anything too stupid, but I mean, I have a YouTube channel. I can't kid myself too much. The easiest person to bullshit is yourself. But when I'm reading myself here, self-evaluation, I do not like writing self-evaluations. Somebody will get that one, but I do not mind talking about them. So I think that's a strategy to play going forward. What I'm going to be doing tonight, so you're probably not going to see this beforehand happening, but just give you an idea of how I'm getting down. I have a 10-1 on the Dodgers. The Dodgers, I am just not feeling very good. 10-1 World Series tickets for them to win the World Series. I don't see it. They are, I mean, again, they're going to get Mookie Betts back, but they are someone, again, that this is where they are actually at fault, where, again, they have all the resources to make things happen, but with how delusional or how stupid it is with the playoff format in baseball, every team thinks that they still have a chance of making the playoffs for way too long. So there's not as many teams willing to part ways, I don't think. So I kind of can't rely on I mean, when the Dodgers get past their fucking 4 or 5 hitters, I mean, some of the lineups they were putting out this weekend, once they got past fucking Teoscar or Smith or Freeman, I mean, it's, at their 4 or 5, I mean, Pages 5, it gets a little dicey for them. Not guys that you can really count on too much. They also blew a fucking huge blew a game on Saturday, a 5-run lead that cost me all kinds of fucking action. It would have been like it was a $900 swing for me. That would have been awesome for me. Okay. And not, going with all the traveling and all the bullshit I got going on, it just would have been nice. Again, that's what happens when you play the game. I got burned on a fucking shitty bullpen. It happens. But, I think that I feel better about in the home run derby today. Again, it's always a tough bet. I feel better about Teoscar Hernandez's chances of winning this home run derby. I do that because of Freddie Freeman and Ohtani. I believe one of the time I was watching the Dodgers, a lot of the Dodgers have said that he was interested in doing this, and a lot of them have said that they believe he would be great for it. Considering that these guys have witnessed firsthand and they've, played with guys that do well in this event, I think that I'm going to take their word for it, and you're going to give me some odds at this one. Gunnar Henderson's getting bet down. He's the only lefty. The park is slightly favors a right-handed batter, but I say ever so slightly with the park factors. But I think that that's a better use of the money. Now, I mentioned this. I pulled my money out of Kava. It's just I'm not a financial expert by any means, and I'm not saying anyone should do anything like this. I just get a little bit of concerned when I see on my Robinhood. Yeah, I'm that fucking much of a novice doing this. I use a Robinhood account. When I see that one of the founders of the company sold 90,000 of his shares, and I also saw that there were 2, they kind of look at it as like big buyers that had scheduled sales of their stock. Maybe think that getting out was the right time. And I mean, it hasn't, it's so far been right. I think a safer use of that money right now is that the Brewers, I mean, this is safer use of the money right now is the shit I'm about to say. I don't think the Braves are catching the Phillies. They just don't. They're Phillies. They just went through a stretch of injuries. The pitching just runs too deep for Philly. And the Braves, now I did just mention the positive regression factor for, maybe I'm talking myself out of this bad one. Maybe we scrap that one. I do believe the Astros at the even money, or where you can get them depending on which books you go. I do think the Astros to win the West is definitely the way to go. They have shown, I mean, they do things bigger in Texas, and they just always seem like they have an axe to grind with these with this level of talent. And again, Yordan Alvarez, a guy that I believe that could just carry a team for a couple of weeks. He's just that good, and he hasn't really had that stretch yet this year. Great players always figure out a way to get it done. And it would not shock me that they make something happen. I mean, again, there's not as much available at the deadline there, but the Astros, they're a team that scares me a little bit in that sense. And adding the Brewers, again, the Brewers, I am very, very confident that, and I say this with the Cardinals logo behind me, and I'm going to see them shortly, but I think that parlaying those three teams, and I don't know the exact return on that one. I mean, really just the Brewers in general, you can get them at under minus 300. I think like that. No, that's what I'm doing. I'm taking all of the money that I have there because I haven't done anything with it yet, and I'm going to put it all on the Brewers to win that division. They call it a bridge jumper bet, but I look at it as that if I'm getting minus 300 on that one, I'm going to be looking at a 30% gain in the next July. It'll take me 3 months. I would be I'm willing to bet. This is how much of a degenerate I am, and I'm going all or nothing on this one because you either win or you lose on this one. With a stock, you might still have some value out of this. Now, I can't say that necessarily because as a speculative wagerer, there are ways I'm sure that I could hedge out of this throughout the way. But I think I have a better chance of getting a 30% return on that than I do of any stock. So I'm going to have that one going there. Everybody, that was kind of it for the Scho-Zone. It's going to be a lot of action-packed content coming out here. So please tell a friend, like, subscribe. And you can, again, I'm not going to be tweeting out as much, but I will be. Maybe on my trip, I'll install it on my phone, which will make an exception, but no Twitter on there on the phone anymore. I still have the account. I still check it from my laptop. I'm just making it less convenient for me to inconvenience myself is the way I'm looking at that one. If you happen to see this right before Home Run Derby, Teoscar Hernandez, which actually I'm probably going to post a short saying I like Teoscar Hernandez to win the Home Run Derby today. And I would say that, again, if you can get some action on the Red Sox to make the playoffs, taking a flyer on the Rays to win the playoffs, to make it to the playoffs, the Brewers, again, it's a bridge jumper bet, as they call it. And if you're a horse bettor, you know exactly what I mean by that. That's when you put it all on a horse to show. But in this case, I think that it's a worthwhile venture. If I told you I'd give you a 30% return on an investment in that short period of time, I think that most people would take that. I can outline the case for you. It's heavily based on run differentials. That's which I believe is a pretty good indicator. And then the Astros win their division. That's something to impart with you. And thank you for kind of slitting through my slew of madness here. I'm trying to keep it a little bit briefer, and I'm going to get ready for the Home Run Derby today. I'm going to go eat some fucking delicious fucking food. It did not cost me a ton, so that way I have more money to go do some unhealthy shit. And maybe on Wednesday I won't have as much edge because I'll finally have some nicotine. But I made it through, discuss that incident as much as possible without discussing that incident. So again, everybody give me a like, subscribe, and a share, and tune into the next Scho-Zone. Who knows when that may be? I'm going to, once the summer ends, we'll start having some consistent show times. Thank you for tuning in.